Greetings, everyone. I would like to thank you all for being here tonight. This town hall is presented by Justice for the Next Generation, along with the Greensboro Pulpit Forum, Gorell Street Association, and other local organizers and community leaders. Your host for tonight is J4TNG, and I'd like to present this short video to share our work over the most recent years.
They have split North Carolina A&T into separate districts.
The mother of Ahmaud Arbery.
Overnight, nationwide unrest following the death of George Floyd.
The reason why young people, millennials, Gen Zers are in these streets, it's not because they're filled with rage, it's because they're filled with righteousness.
Here in Louisville, Kentucky. Give me a sanctuary.
After police say they blocked traffic. According to the Burlington Times-News, hundreds of people gathered near the courthouse this afternoon to hear people talk about voting rights.
Marchers posted on social media showing the gathering in Graham outside the Alamance County Courthouse. Police say the group began blocking traffic, which led officers to spray pepper spray at the ground. But those in the crowd say that is not what happened.
You pepper sprayed children.
Marchers to the polls could be heard gasping and coughing as some of them helped others back to their feet and doused water in their eyes after they say tear gas was used on them. In a statement, the North Carolina Democratic Party says, quote, the actions of these officers represents completely unwarranted police hostility and voter suppression. This group of North Carolinians was fully within their First Amendment rights to hold their protest and march to the polls.
Justice for the next generation. There's a storm out on the ocean, and it's moving this way. If your soul is not anchored in justice, you will surely drift away. Graham, what do we want? And when do we want it?
Greetings again. My name is Amora Brown, and I am an associate minister at the Citadel Church and a proud member of Justice for the Next Generation. Before I came to Greensboro, North Carolina, I remember being in high school and watching the deaths of Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown unfold and wondering why nobody was angry or nobody was doing anything around me. But then I came to North Carolina and I met Reverend Drumwright. At the time, I didn't really know how to get into justice, but he's somebody who brings people into that work. The first protest I followed him into was in Charlotte, North Carolina, after the death of Keith Scott. I remember the headlines talked about the violence and the chaos that was erupting, but by the time we left that night, the headlines had changed and they talked about peace and community and unity. And so I would like to introduce my pastor, Reverend Drumwright, and also my also my mentor, and just thank him for the work that he has done in this community. And I look forward to what's unfolding in this town hall.
Shout out to Aggie Excellence, Miss Amora Brown, who started as a Bennett Bell and matriculated to be an Aggie and received her master's degree from Wake Forest, and now she's obtaining a second master's degree at UNC Chapel Hill while she is teaching full-time at Dudley High School. So, are there any Aggies in the room tonight? Aggie pride. I just want to uplift the presence of the incoming student body president at North Carolina A&T State University. She was just elected last week, President-elect Lauren Long. I know we also have some very esteemed young student activists, and that is where my heart lies, with young organizers and young adults and the organizers around the voting polls being taken away from local colleges, North Carolina A&T, UNC, G, High Point University, Elon University. I believe Tatiana and Olu Rouse are in here today. I see Tatiana over there. Can we do a little better for them? They have put so much on the line. So much on the line. Thank you, Brother Olu, for leading that charge, and Sister Tatiana for your organizing work. And we are fully behind you, as well as the students from neighboring colleges and universities. There are too many of you all who do amazing and excellent work for me to uplift by name. I'm so grateful for my colleagues from the Pulpit Forum for being present, as well as other folks who are going to flow into our town hall tonight. I'm also grateful for the presence of the press, because you all have helped us inform the community of the issues. And let me say that there is also a multitude of press from Dayton, Ohio, that is also watching our work live tonight. If you do not want to be photographed or pictured, you should probably exit left now. Your presence is consent to be imaged in our media work tonight. And before I go any further, I want to thank my staff, this amazing group from the Citadel Church and Justice for the Next Generation, for helping us organize the town hall. There are some voices here seated at the dais, but there are voices here seated in front of me in the likeness of each and every one of you. And as much as you want to be heard tonight, we want to uplift your voice. My piece is going to be very short and very quick. I just want to ground us in why we are here. We are here because in this particular issue around policing in Greensboro, this is a historic issue in our city and in our communities that make up the municipality, the city, the gate city of Greensboro, North Carolina. As you might have gathered from the work that was shared on the media reel, I've been organizing for quite some time, nearly 20 years, actually over 20 years. One of my first opportunities to organize around issues of policing was when I arrived here as a student, as a freshman at North Carolina A&T State University in the fall of 1998. And in 98 and 99 and 2000, we were organizing because students from local universities, primarily black and brown students from A&T State University, were often finding themselves out shopping at Four Seasons Mall, but ended up with charges, ended up in handcuffs. And students at North Carolina A&T that I was amongst, we organized our community to boycott the Four Seasons Mall until they eased up on their pressure shopping while black. And we were successful in that fight because we stayed unified in that fight, because we withheld our young dollars in that fight. And we came together and made sure the city understood the economic impact of even broke college students at that time, and how important it was for us to feel safe here in Greensboro, North Carolina. And since that time, there has been a multiplicity of concerns and cases, and yes, even deaths at the hand of unjust and unfair policing. We are not here to throw our city police en masse under the bus. We are not here to paint policing and law enforcement as being all bad, because most of the officers that serve and protect us are doing the Lord's work, and they're doing it quite well. There's often times just a few bad apples, and there's often times just a few bad chiefs. And we are here to uplift how important it is for us to feel safe on all sides of the city of Greensboro. And it wasn't just in 98, and it wasn't just since Marcus Smith that these issues have been important to me and other members of this dais. It was just last summer, the end of last summer, and last fall, that myself and other members of our community, other clergy, other local leaders, other organizers seated here, and even organizers that are now elected officials on our city council, went before the most recent past city council to uplift our concerns in August, October, September, asking for meetings beyond a 3-minute dais speech, asking for a work session, asking for any opportunity for you to hear our concerns around unfair policing, asking for the council at that time to uplift our call for policing reform. And so we're not here because of a Johnny-come-lately outcry. We've been on this issue for years. We stayed on this issue to make sure the family of Marcus Smith got the justice that the original police statement said that they were not due. And so around this issue, our voices have perhaps been muted. Since December, we've had no engagement from our city or on our new police chief hire. We beg your pardon. In fact, since last summer, a year ago, testing 1, 2, our voices were muted when we asked for further conversation. We were told then, just like we were told last week, thanks for speaking up, yet nothing brought about meaningful dialogue, and nothing brought about meaningful change for our community. And so your presence here tonight and the voices in this room tonight, the facts, not the feelings, but the facts that we pray to uplift tonight will hopefully change that course and call for our voices to be unmuted on the soundboard of our city staff and our city council. And so with that being said, I want to bring forth my colleague in the work, not just the work of congregational leadership, but the work of local organizing. Please help me welcome Reverend C.J. Brinson at this time.
I can step out of my comfort zone and just sit at the table and speak to all of you. How are all of you tonight? Awesome. Reverend C.J. Brinson, pronouns he, him, his, pastor of Umoja Church, Greensboro native, and just happy to be here with all of you tonight. Happy to be with all of the esteemed colleagues who are here tonight. And the fact that you all are here shows that this is, as Reverend Drumwright said, not a Johnny-come-lately event, that this is a issue that really is impacting all of you in the community. Shout out to all of my white colleagues as well. Thank you all for being in the room. Who the police chief matters to all of us. All of us are affected by those decisions, and many of the things that we are experiencing in terms of ICE and state violence from the government are in place because we have not been able to attack and address local policing in our local communities in terms of how policing has killed and harmed and oppressed black people. And so we have to address these issues at home in order to hold some of the federal entities and statewide entities in order as well. I'm here tonight to speak quickly on why this hire doesn't make sense, why the hire doesn't make sense. For those of you that don't know, Greensboro has a storied history, 60 plus years of police brutality, cover-up, and corruption. We can date back to Willie Grimes, 1979 Greensboro massacre. Many police cases currently in the modern era where the city has demonized many of the victims and their families, yet has spent millions of taxpayer dollars to settle many of those same cases. So the question is, with all of this history and with the community asking for a culture of change in our police department, why would this city hire a chief that has not exemplified a leadership that is in alignment with the values of community? For instance, 7 murders of black people in Dayton, Ohio since his tenure starting in 2021, and 4 victims experiencing non-fatal injuries. 94 police murders in Montgomery County, Ohio, since 2000. Also, the chief has obtained an undergraduate degree from George Mason University's economics department, one of the most conservative entities in the country, where Greensboro is a moderate, liberal, or progressive city, and also a master's degree from Troy University in Alabama. These things just don't make sense when you are speaking to the things that we have been asking for in this community. You will hear from other colleagues the outcomes for black people when they interact with police officers in Dayton, Ohio. Their numbers far surpass what is happening here in Greensboro, and Dayton is smaller than Greensboro. There is a culture of false transparency, releasing of videos. Do you have written consent?
Let me dignify, since you're uplifting, all the way from Dayton, Ohio, the lead organizer around social justice matters. Please welcome her to Greensboro, North Carolina, Miss Zakia Jabbar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Drumwright, for introducing me. I'm Zakiya Sankara-Jabbar. I am the co-founder of Racial Justice Now. It was founded in Dayton, Ohio in 2011, and it is my honor to be here with you all to share about the work that we're doing around the most recent police killing in Dayton under the current chief's leadership. So thank you for having me.
Also on the dais, Mr. Jason Hicks. He's coming forth in just a moment. Mr. Gene Blackman, can you help me welcome our other panelists?
2 more seconds, I'm good. And so I will just end with this. We have folks that are here, but it's not adding up. What is happening in Dayton far surpasses what has already happened in Greensboro. As I was stating, false transparency around releasing the videos. We're talking about a chief that is versed in twisting and distorting what the public is actually seeing. Should we implement written consent here in Greensboro? You're talking about a chief that is versed in leading the department and knowing how to get around many of those policies. So, you know, thankful to want to move forward and to be able to achieve some of those progressive things, but we don't want it on the back of such a bad hire. And so wanting the community to really know all of these things, because this is not what Greensboro needs. Thank you all for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Reverend Brinson. Now we're going to hear from Jason Hicks, who's going to share why this is a bad hire. As Jason comes forth, you'll see a QR code appear on the screen. We encourage you to scan it at some point, if not during his presentation. At the conclusion of tonight's presentation, feel free to come up and get a little closer if you need to. His presentation and the data that is contained herein is located at this link. I also want to uplift the presence of Honorable Councilman Irvin Allen, who has joined us tonight. Thank you, Councilman Allen, for being here. Thank you, brother.
All right, y'all. Jason Hicks, senior organizer, still getting used to a new title, but senior organizer with Second Chance Federation. I believe once you scan this QR code, you'll see a comprehensive report on the data out of Dayton, Ohio, as well as some information about what's been happening here in Greensboro as well. And I'm hoping we're going to go through some slides that we can get started whenever folks are ready. So again, just traffic stop analysis and leadership assessment, really focused on Kamran Afzal in this moment. We can go to the next slide just real quick. Table of contents. I don't need to read through that. I think most people in the room are capable. So we'll keep going and just say that this report will analyze, this is publicly available data from the city of Dayton on traffic stops during the tenure of now former Chief Kamran Afzal there in Dayton. And we're going to really talk about the data transparency and completeness, racial disparities in traffic stops, and implications of this record for leadership in Greensboro. So we'll go on to that next slide. I don't need to read through this because I really want to encourage you all to read through this yourselves, share this with folks. You should be able to send the link, send it to folks. So we really want to get this information out to the community. But I will highlight here in 2022 and 23, 24, there was a lot of missing racial data around who they were stopping, right? So in 2022, over 25% of the stops had missing race data. So they weren't recording who they were stopping. More egregious than that, in 2023, 48.5% of their stops had missing race data, so they're not recording who they were stopping. And then again in 2024, we see a slightly better, but still a lot of disparity on how they're reporting the data. Again, in 2025, the data integrity improves, but what we see is a stark increase in stops of black people, which to me means that the missing numbers in 22, 23, and 24 were made up of black drivers. And that's this is the way the data is interpreted. We can go to the next slide. When we look at 25, like I said, 59% of the stops were black drivers, 27% of the stops were white drivers. And that's important to note because according to census data, 37.8% of the population is black in Dayton. But what we know is of those 37.8, only about 20 to 30% of those people are even eligible to drive. So we're really talking about a large disparity well beyond just what we see in percentages and numbers. I want to go to the visual analysis slides because I think it really highlights what we're seeing. I want to point out for folks that may not be following along, when you look at this from where you're sitting, black drivers are in red. So in 2022, we see that overall, 41.5% of traffic stops were black people, but this green portion is 25%, right? That's no race entered. Then we look down here when they did record race, 60.1%. We can go to the next slide. I want to move through these, right? So 2023, this green right here, no race entered. So 50% of their stops had no race data entered. But when we look at where they did enter race, we see a 57.9%. We can keep going. And I just want to skip to 25 because that's where we see actual true picture. So the next slide.
Clarify.
Sure.
For people that may not be able to keep up with you or track, what do you mean by no race entered?
Yeah, so on the form that they're filling out in traffic stops, there's a section where it says the race of the individual, the sex of the individual, and a couple different other demographic information that they want to collect. They were skipping the race box. So they weren't entering race at all on over 50% of the stops in 2023. And I think it's important to note because it doesn't paint a clear picture. So when you look at, go back one slide just for clarity. When we look at 2024 right here, when we look at the full picture, we only see 40% of the stops are made up of black people. But then when we take out this 33.1% where they didn't enter no race at all, we see that black people make up 66% of the stops. So they're skewing the data in what would appear to be intentionally when we look at the next slide in 2025, where the no race entered, race not entered, goes down to about 8%, but black people make up 60% of the stops. And that's like the first real look at who they were actually stopping. So we keep going to our next slide. This is Greensboro's current data for that same time frame, right? Which is just as bad, y'all. I just want to be clear, right? So in 2022, I can't see that. In 2022,
it has 26% white, 64.5% black.
That's right.
And then these other very small pieces of the pie. Hispanic was 6%, Asian and other. That's 2022, Greensboro.
Yep, so and then 23, 63.8% black, 25% white. In 2024, 64% black, 24% white. And in 2025, we see 65.9, we'll call it 66% black and 23% white. And while our outcomes are similar in Greensboro, what I would offer and why I'm saying this is a bad hire is because we know there were internal candidates that applied for this position.
Right.
And we know that we were in conversation with those candidates about how bad our data was. And we don't need someone who we've not talked to, who also has problems around transparency and disparities in stops. So we really want to just highlight how bad of a decision that was. But I think if we move forward, we go to the one more slide. So the data from Dayton raises concerns about alignment between prior leadership outcomes and Greensboro's current needs. Specifically, Dayton experienced multi-year failures in data transparency, which we just saw. Racial disparities remained present when data improved. We saw that in 2025. And there is no clear evidence within the data of full resolution of these issues because they're still reporting 8% with no race entered. Now, if we move further, at the same time, Greensboro residents are actively seeking to improve transparency, address disparities, deprioritize regulatory stops, implement written consent, and address public safety concerns such as speeding, reckless driving, and running red lights. We keep going to the next slide. I'm so sorry. I want y'all to read this, but what I really want to say is that when we look at what has been said from the city manager about this hire, he mentions someone who would bring transparency and accountability, which is the reason he was hired. But when we look at his leadership and the culture and the things that were going on under his leadership, there's clearly a lack of transparency that was taking place. There was clearly a lack of accountability that was taking place. And these are not things that we would want to bring to Greensboro when we're already having these issues. We don't need to compound those issues with someone who's doing a worse job where they were in a city that's a third the size of Greensboro. So I would just offer on the next slide, these are important questions that I think we need to consider, is why should Greensboro trust a record from Dayton marked by years of data gaps and disparities? Why were so many traffic stops in Dayton missing race data for years? What was actually done to fix the lack of race data when it was happening? And then lastly, or I'm going to have one more, but once the data improved, how was the overrepresentation of black drivers in stops explained? And I would offer that it probably wasn't. But I also would add to this, why was Greensboro, or why did the city manager choose for Greensboro to take such a risk? That's what I really don't understand. So I would add that as an additional question. And I think I'm going to stop there. I think that's it. So good. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jason. Before we hear from our next panelist, would you please help me thank Reverend Curtis Brown, a general of faith work here and organizing work here in Greensboro, for opening the doors of New Light. He's watching, but he's not here, but it's okay for us to clap him up. Thank you, Reverend Brown, and thank you for opening the doors of New Light. I also want to acknowledge the presence of State Representative Amos Quick, Reverend Amos Quick, who is here, was here, around here. And if there are any other elected officials, please let us know. Okay, all right. We're hearing now from Mr. Jing Blackman.
Hello, hello. Good evening. So tonight I am going to talk about why we didn't choose within. The answer to that question is we don't know. And that's the problem. There wasn't what I would call a transparent process. And I want to talk a little bit about the process and how we thought that community was involved and would be involved on the back end when they got to the last two candidates, but clearly was not. So they had, I think, 5 input sessions. I think one at Craft Center, one at Lindley, one at Brown, one at, what was it, Peeler, and was it Lewis? And one at Lewis. And that's what gave the community an opportunity to share what they wanted from the new selected chief. I attended 2 of them, Craft Center and Lindley, and they wasn't, highly attended by the community, just to, be clear. But the ones that were there were clearly stating the things that they wanted from the community. And high on that list was, a chief that is invested in this city. And we had 3 internal candidates. And honestly, all 3 of them could be chiefs anywhere. That's right. Because they were truly qualified. So I think that we got down to the final 2, which was Assistant Chief Stephanie Mardis and Chief Afzal, and where we thought that there would be a forum where community could attend, ask questions, and give input. That did not happen. And before we could blink, we found out that Afzal was offered the position. Knowing the 3 candidates that we had from here, who has given 20 plus years to this police department, and who has built a bridge of relationships with community and law enforcement, and even with our issues with them, we could call them, we could talk to them, we could meet with them. We can hash things out. And to find out that we have this candidate who is not doing a great job where he's at is very disheartening, and the process is very questionable. And, we really have to make our voice heard. And because of that, we ask that our city rescind the offer. Rescind the offer. So I'm going to pass it back to Pastor Drumwright. But please keep in mind that we want our city to rescind the offer. Hire within.
Thank you, Mr. Blackman.
Yes, sir.
I met this sister over 6-7 years ago in Miami, Florida. Just to show you how small our world and orbit of organizing is. I had no clue that she was organizing her hometown community 3 weeks ago in Dayton, Ohio, around the same issues that we're organizing right here in Greensboro. And so I haven't laid eyes on her since we were both in Miami celebrating the release of a film that was winning film festival awards at that time around our work on social justice. So I'm grateful to have her in Greensboro. I understand that she spent time in some of our most hallowed spaces where social justice work and civil rights movement work has been uplifted. Please, again, will you welcome lead organizer of Racial Justice Now, Zakiya Jabbar.
Well, thank you very much again, Reverend Drumwright, for the opportunity to be here with your community. I did get an opportunity to look around Greensboro today, thanks to my good friend Terrence. Showed me North Carolina A&T, which is very, very, yes, it was beautiful campus. And I learned it was the largest HBCU, so it's amazing. This is my first time here, and the best. Okay, I got you. Well, you know, it is not, unfortunately, a good occasion that we had to reconnect, because there was unfortunately another murder on March 24th in Dayton, Ohio, under the leadership of Chief Afzal. And that is how Racial Justice Now, which was founded in Dayton in 2011, that is how we got activated and then got started in organizing to push back on that, particularly after we looked at the body cam video that was released to the media, and the community was instantly like, this is just not right, and we have to fight back and push back on these unjust stops. I want to honor the local organizers on the ground in Dayton and name my colleagues: Carlos Buford, who is the founder of Black Lives Matter Dayton; Sabrina Jordan, who is a directly impacted mother. Her son was murdered by Moraine police, and she is the founder and president of Ohio Communities United Against Police Brutality. And so if you all have been paying attention to the media out of Dayton, all of those leaders have stood toe-to-toe with me, directly with me, to call for our own justice. And so I said to Reverend Drumwright earlier, I said, no, that was the other brother. I said, I apologize, because I believe the transparency process, that might have been because we were making so much noise in the city. And he was like, wait, hold on, I'm out of here. I had no idea he was in the process of looking for another job. We had no idea he was in the process of looking for a job in Greensboro. But after our press conference, this is facts, he announced the very next day that he was leaving. This man was killed March 24th, community. It has not been investigated. And he's leaving town. And so the community there is certainly, continuing to be upset about it, and we're continuing to call for justice. We wanted to have him fired, of course, and then, of course, he announced he was leaving. But the community there is continuing to organize around our city manager and the assistant city manager on top of that as well. Because of the way the city charter is, the city manager has the power currently, and we currently do not have 3 votes on the city council to push that. So that's the main thing that's happening now in terms of the organizing that's happening in Dayton. We're continuing to do our own due diligence. I even asked for a copy of the slides that you all just did to continue to make the case there in the city. And so again, I'm honored to be here. I understand and completely agree with the calls to rescind the offer. You all do not want this chief in this community. And I would have to say, after I looked at the demographics and have looked at this beautiful room of people here, I am honestly afraid that, with the leadership that he's had in Dayton and coming to a community that has a higher demographic of African Americans, that this could not bode well for your community if this decision stays.
Just before we open it up for questions from the audience, can you give us a little bit more context around what local city leaders and organizers in Dayton, what their experience is? Is this a chief that has community, that brings community policing with him on all sides of the community?
The short answer is no. Not according to the local organizers in Dayton. When we talked about, in fact, if you go back and look at the comments, even on Facebook, people were like, good riddance, bye, great, get out of here. So that should be the answer about whether he was good at community policing. And I would say primarily the African American community was certainly not happy, with his leadership being there from 2021 until now.
There's a lot of conversation and rhetoric around the death of Mr. Reginald Thomas.
Yes.
I want to uplift his name because
yes, and
he
we're
should
calling
not,
for justice
he should
for
not
Reginald
be dead.
Thomas. He should not be dead.
Should not be dead.
Say his name.
Reginald Thomas.
Reginald Thomas.
And if there are members of his family watching you
yeah.
are in our prayers.
You're in our
and
prayers.
we are supporting the dignity of his life here.
That's right.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas was shot after a police encounter, a police stop.
Broken windows policing, a pretext stop. He was literally on a bike minding his business. No one called the police on him, you all.
A motorcycle?
No, a bike. It was literally a bike, not a motorcycle.
The kind that you pedal?
No, the kind that you pedal, seriously. Because that was the issue, was a bike light. Motorcycles have lights. But I'm just saying, you know.
I just wanted to be clear.
No, I'm being clear. It was literally a bike. And
what you all call pretextual stops, we call here regulatory stops.
Regulatory, yeah, okay.
And so
the
just to be clear, so
yeah,
that
so
everybody
regulatory
will know,
stops, yeah.
Mr. Thomas's bicycle did not have a light on it.
And let me address the gun. I'm not sure what the laws are in the state of North Carolina.
Well, I was going to get there.
In
so
Ohio,
let me make sure they understand.
Okay, I want to make sure.
He was stopped on the bike.
Right.
And this was not his first time being stopped.
That's right.
By the Dayton police.
Being harassed.
Was it 1 or 2 weeks prior?
Just 1 week prior. According to his family, 1 week prior, he was stopped, again, downtown by the police, being harassed.
And so, because of the trauma of the previous harassment,
that's right.
Mr. Thomas asked the police,
that's right.
Can I just show you my ID?
You can see it on video.
I'm not committing any crimes. They're not stopping him because he's committing a crime. They are stopping him because he didn't have a light on his bike. And when that interaction wasn't de-escalated, and I heard my city manager respectfully recently share that this particular police hire was going to be a great fit for our community. I heard the police hire share in an interview last week that his office was responsible for de-escalation in their community. Because that stop wasn't de-escalated, Mr. Thomas pulled out his gun and pointed towards police? No. Mr. Thomas took off running on foot. Mind you,
away from the police.
Away from
the police, not towards them.
Mind you, he hasn't committed a crime. He just doesn't have a light. And he was willing to identify himself.
He was trying to give the ID.
Mr. Thomas took off on foot. We do understand that there are some mental issues at play. Mr. Thomas was also a houseless individual.
Yes.
So this was his primary mode of transportation, and downtown was his home.
And downtown was his home.
Mr. Thomas ran from the police, and when he was scuffled down, the gun fell out. Now, you were going to explain why the gun should not be an issue.
Right. Because the initial conversations, and I think most people kind of just defer, oh, well, if he had a gun, then, just automatic. And it's like, well, no, black people have Second Amendment rights as well. And, and he had the gun for protection because he's a houseless person. And he did not pull the gun on the police at all. He was running. Like, he wasn't there to hurt the police. He just wanted to be left alone. He wanted to just go about his business and live. And so what I wanted to make clear is that Ohio is an open carry state. Like, you can have a gun. It doesn't even have to, it's...
No license.
Yes.
He was
Alabama's the same
right.
way. So I'm like, it's not the gun. And I want us, like, in the audience and just in the regular community, like, having guns in the United States of America in and of itself is not criminal. Even for black men, having guns in and of itself is not criminal. There are Second Amendment rights.
Right. And it's important It's important, Jason, Gene, CJ, it's important for us to educate our community around these, the fair policing around guns, because the moment you hear that a black man was shot by police, but he had a gun,
we just think, oh, well.
we all automatically think, well, you're responsible for your own death.
Right.
And let me tell you, the narrative out of the Dayton Police Department under Chief Afzal's leadership is that he is responsible for his own death. I want to remind this community, I want to remind everybody watching us from beyond this community, they also said George Floyd was responsible for his own death.
That's right.
The police came out with a statement. The police in Louisville, Kentucky also said that Breonna Taylor was responsible for her own death, sleeping while black.
Right.
I want to remind you that public safety officers stood behind the killing of Trayvon Martin, saying that he was responsible for his own death. Ahmaud Arbery, also responsible for his own death. And so we have to be careful listening to the narrative of law enforcement that by data proof target black and brown people, citizens, at a disproportionate rate, and then blaming them for being responsible for their own deaths.
And just one final moment on that. One of the things, and I'm glad you brought out Reginald Thomas's economic situation, his current living situation. For me, this is a continued spectrum of the dehumanization of our black men and boys. We see it in the school to prison pipeline, which is how my organization got started. It literally starts in toddlerhood, as babies, when our children are targeted. But particularly for our boys and our men, the state violence that is targeting towards them when it comes to schools in the school to prison pipeline, when it comes to policing, and certainly we know what happens in court systems. Black men have the highest exoneration rates. I also want to remind people of that as well. So for me and the work that we're doing, we are focusing on disrupting that dehumanization narrative and the dehumanization pipeline from birth to death for black men and boys. Thank you.
The police department also said that Marcus Dion Smith was responsible for his own death as well.
Right here in Greensboro, North Carolina. But we know they settled that lawsuit because, in fact, he was not responsible for his own death. Marcus Smith, say his name.
Marcus Smith.
We are joined, one more presenter, and then we're going to turn it over to you all for comments and questions. The Honorable Dina Hayes Green is our school board chair, and we want to acknowledge her for comments at this time.
Thank you. I apologize for being late. It was with my neighborhood association, but I think, I just want to say a little bit about the process. I also can't help but to think of Tamir Rice in Ohio, who was a 12-year-old boy on a playground with a water gun. And when black people are seen with something, it's not what the object that they have in their hand. It's being black.
Come on.
Because you can have a can, a cell phone, a banana, a toy gun, and black children are seen as older, as bigger, as less innocent, as less needing nurturing and support. And so it's interesting that when, I think her name was Amy Bishop, but she was she was a professor, I think, at Harvard, and gunned down, maybe Huntsville, Alabama, but she had gunned down some of her colleagues at the college, actually had a gun pointed at police when they caught her. And they were just like, we were trying not to shoot her. So when some people have a gun pointed at you, but you value their life, you still try to figure out how to take them into custody without killing them. Unlike Walter Scott, who was stopped because he had a taillight out in Charleston, South Carolina, had a child support warrant out for him, and got shot in the back running away because of the child support, and killed. And so process is important because it's how we, that's right. It's how we hold systems accountable, and it's how we build trust. Once you erode trust, then everybody's in danger in the community. And that's why it was so important to follow that. It's also important as systems leaders to own what we do wrong. It's like if we made a communications mistake, we have to own that and say, you know, because the evidence is there. And we have to be able to say, because that restores trust, because then people feel like, you know, you're acknowledging a wrong and you're correcting that. So that means we can trust future decisions. Now it's setting us up, it's pitting community against the institution, and this is a centuries-old problem. And you know, the Kerner Commission, after the riots in Watts, you know, when this commission was formed to study the riot, they went into the convening convinced that it was militant black power that caused the riots. They came out and said it was white racism. That's right. That was the cause of it, and a dysfunctional alliance between the African American community and law enforcement. That's right. And here we are in 2026. That was in the 1960s. And here we are in 2026 still having this conversation about this alliance, this misalignment about the safety of our children. I have 3 black sons, a black husband. You know, CJ's children are like my niece and my nephew. And when they're out playing and seen as older and dangerous, we shouldn't have to fear our sidewalk. We shouldn't have to fear the park. Come on. We shouldn't have to fear riding a bike in the neighborhood. But when you violate the process, you set all of this stuff in motion. So I apologize for being late, and I would want to definitely hear from our community.
Let's hear it for our panelists tonight. Before we open up for public comments and question towards our dais, we have mic runners. And so we ask for public safety that you don't grab the mic. And just in case you're going a little long, we might have to snatch the mic back. So we're just going to hold the mic. We're going to interview you CNN style. Is that all right? Also, if there's some other clarity that our panelists can provide, panelists, I just ask that y'all keep your answers concise so that we can gather as many voices from the community as possible. At this time, who would have a question or a comment that you want to uplift?
I just want to say thank you for the panelists for coming out today. And just thank you for the attention that you're bringing to this issue in our community. And I just want to say that I appreciate you guys bringing up this issue, but when it comes to these issues, due to the fact of everything we're going through in America, that I watched the city council meetings, and they can get a little aggressive from the speakers. I would just ask that people, when you disagree, agree to disagree with everyone. Can we just keep it to where even if we disagree with everyone, agree to disagree. We're not always going to agree with everybody, but just keep in mind that we are all God's children. And, you know, we have a president today that is bringing so much anger to people and driving all of us apart. And I ask that even though we disagree with our city manager and some of our city council members, let this not get to the anger and the danger that our president is brought to the United States. So where I agree with what you guys say, I do. Let's not let it get to that point in Greensboro, North Carolina. We can all disagree with our city council members and you know, even each other at times.
We got you.
But just pray that we all agree to disagree.
Thank you, sister.
Keep it simple.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. right? Do I have 2 mic runners, please? Okay, we got on the front row right here. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You want to speak to that,
Yes,
Jean?
good afternoon. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, ma'am, you go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. But my concern and my question in hiring this particular chief is, I don't think folks looked at the track record. We have to be conscious of when we put persons of this magnitude in positions to see where their background has been, their longevity there, and what did they do to bring harmony to the community across the board. It's not about black and brown people only. We're all human. We must live here together, but we have to make the effort to work as one and be respectful of each other.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate you, both of your comments. But I do want to speak to the first lady who spoke. The issue is not whether we agree or not, because we work together all the time and we do not always agree. But the difference, the difference is that we're transparent with each other. And this has not been a transparent process. And so that does anger us. It does make us want to protest. It makes us want to resist the decision and ask for a rescind, because this whole process doesn't make sense. And then we're not getting any answers. We're not getting any clear feedback. We're not getting any clear whys. And so, yes, this is frustrating, and it does anger us. So I don't want us to put a narrative out there that because we don't agree with everything that our council or our city staff does, that we're upset and we're angry. That's not it. But we do ask for transparency, and we want to understand why.
Absolutely. I also want to say that I have a tremendous amount of respect for our new city council. I have a tremendous amount of respect for our city manager, for our city attorney. These are not people that are figureheads or talking heads. For me personally, they are friends. And it's important that when you have friends in position, that we as the community are able to push aside our friendship and be able to deal with the concerns of the community. And there's passion in that as well. But I believe that we are attacking the issues, and I would hope that the community will understand the difference in that.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, one more response, and then we're going to this sister.
She has a response.
Can I borrow this? Oh, there's the working now. Thank you. I wanted to honor you and thank you as well. And what the comment brought to mind is that when there is a time and a space for righteous indignation. And I would say that the unjust killing of people while they're just minding their business and not bothering nobody, not committing no crimes, okay, and they just being killed, that's a time and a space that we know the Most High allows for righteous indignation, and that anger is an appropriate emotion to that. It is appropriate. And that sometimes you can't be always civil when people are not being civil with you, and our history shows us that.
Yes, I was saying to someone, I think it was to Reverend Brinson today, that civility at a time of great oppression and violence is collusion.
That's right.
Come on.
This sister here, and then this brother here on the front row.
I have a very quick question, actually. Did I understand you correctly to say that the Chief Afzal, is his name, I think?
Yes, ma'am.
Had served since 2021 in Dayton? So he was only there for 5 years, a little bit less. Where was he before that?
Absolutely.
And what was the tenure there? Do you know?
He was in Hopewell, which is close to Arlington, for about 16 months. on the first, I was going to say, to speak to what BJ said, he was there for 16 months. On the very first day he was sworn in, there was an officer-involved shooting in Hopewell. Prior to that, or in between Hopewell and Dayton, he was in Colorado for about 28 months. And then prior to that, he was in...
So these are all, this is very much a red flag.
Yeah.
When a person is job hopping like that, it's very much a red flag. And that is really, malpractice really on the part of the city manager to not look at that history and say that this is not a good fit for Greensboro. And I'm new to Greensboro, and this all sounds too familiar to me, coming from Halifax, Nova Scotia, with the same kind of policing forum, because we see the same statistics on the stops that were being made and the harassment of people of color.
Absolutely. And this chief has, I believe, 3 years before he can retire, so we'll probably be back in this process again in 3 years when the candidate that is from here has 6. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he did interview that he was coming here to retire. I did hear this.
Yeah.
All right, right here. Mm-hmm.
Hello, my name is Bill Menas, and I think I'm about the 5th person to speak, and I'm going to say a question. I'm going to have an actual question. First, I want to say that I'm ignorant about a lot of things. I've never been a policeman, and I've never been a black person either. So I'm going to frame my question in that. I do like pie charts, and over there, and this is to Jason, because maybe you would know more than anybody. But one section of the pie chart said 8% unknown. So a policeman would pull somebody over and it'd either say white, black, Chinese, but then he might check unknown. Here's my question, and it might be an obvious answer. I can't tell what everybody's race is that I see. Would that be where the policeman says, I really don't know what his race is, and I'm going to put unknown? That's my question.
Yeah.
What I would say is that whenever you give someone your ID, your driver's license, your race is on there. Yeah, that's the answer.
Yeah, but that's an example of the issues that we have in this nation.
Come on.
Because here we are, instead of being outraged, he's really, and I believe he's genuine in asking, but he's trying to find justification somewhere for the way things are. And that is part of the problem in this country.
I'd also add that, okay, maybe 5% it's not discernible, but Jason presented data that was trending over 40% of folks being stopped where their race was unknown. There is a problem there. There is a culture of a lack of transparency under that police administration leadership. Yeah. Right here to Reverend Hughes, and then back in that corner, and sister, I got your hand. Thank you.
I can appreciate the data that has been presented, but also in addition to that, the City of Greensboro leadership has publicly stated that they will not rescind the offer to Afzal. And so with that in mind, my question becomes, what is the next step moving forward?
I want to thank you for that question. I want to ask the dais to hold their responses. That's going to be the final question of the evening, which is going to be summed up in where do we go from here. I will tell you right now, return to sender. There is a such thing, return to sender. But not quite. They don't want him back. Yeah. Well, all right. But we're going to answer that question back here in this corner here. All right, Ms. Tatiana.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tatiana James. I'm a junior criminal justice student at North Carolina A&T. So thank you. Yes, Aggie Pride. Yes. Thank you all for being here tonight. And I don't have more so of a question, but just something to leave you with. If you don't know, North Carolina A&T will be celebrating the 100th GHO this fall. And the importance of that is the downtown presence. Last year, we brought in over 173,000 people to GHO. That's a big deal. So do we want a chief that's going to be over policing students, people that are coming from out of town? People fly in from GHO. So do we want that presence downtown? That's something that you need to consider as we're sitting in our seats and wondering if this is a big deal or not, because it very much is to us. So, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This sister here.
Hi, I'm Bella Joy, Greensboro native. My first question was our steps next, so I'll hold that. But my other question to our community that is here is, especially our older generation and our younger, like how we're bridging that gap within our communities. I guess I'm urging us to make sure that we know somebody before we leave, have that conversation of how you can help them on just a small scale, and how we can help each other continue to come to these forums, and when they give us the next steps, how we can help each other like come together for those next steps. That's my urge to you all here, because I'm going to do that. I'm probably going to say hey to a bunch of y'all. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right here, and then I see some hands. Okay, right here, and then we're going there, and then I'm going that way. I promise you. Okay.
All right. I was so happy when I drove up this evening to see the parking lot filled with cars. So I'm just so happy to be here. I'm a new resident of Guilford County just since December. And just to give you guys some context of how things work in other professions, I'm a physician. And when I have to apply for different job opportunities to different hospitals, I'm not only asked what happened in the last year, I'm asked if I've ever had a malpractice suit. And I have to detail if I've ever had a malpractice suit. And then on top of that, I'm asked if there are any current investigations. And so these are things that hospital systems are keyed in on, because they are not going to want me to hop from one hospital to the other, bringing my problems, things that were unresolved, things that didn't go well, and bringing it to their doorstep. So they stop it at the gate. Those are initial questions before I even get an interview. Those are questions that have to be answered. So can we rescind it? Yes, we can rescind it. All we have to do, all that has to be done is to say, due to new information that we have seen since March 24th, we no longer feel that we can move forward in this process.
Right. Terrence.
Okay, yeah, you got to hold it. My fault. So let me just say this to be clear. So I was trying to just be quiet, but I need to lay out some context. Everybody on the panel, friends, I know them, people in the audience, cool, but I've been an activist for 30 years, so this is not something people just, this is a systematic thing that's been going on in this city. If I can call Trey, I got Trey's number. That's my dude, but it's not about Trey. It's about the accountability and transparency that this city has not been giving us. Do you know how long it took for this city to apologize for November 3rd, 1979? It took too many years. And in this same city, we got to understand this is Black Maternal Health Week, and you should support Black Pearls this Saturday. Black babies are dying in the healthcare system. Black children are dying in the public school system. Black communities are talking about Black and brown indigenous people that are suffering because the data shows that. We are also working on deaths in custody because there's numbers of deaths in custody that are Black. But what we are seeing is an administration that is trying to wipe out that data so you can't get the data. So this is not somebody just talking. Black folks that are activists are now and have been, always been, my mentor, Reverend Brisbane, when we were meeting in the city, we made sure that we had the data research, so we're not just talking rhetoric, we're talking truth. And since I'm in Reverend Brown's House of the Lord, just understand there was a man that turned over the money changers' tables in the church. So there was some anger that he had about how they were treating people. So when I see that as a black man, I know who I am and I have traffic stops, I still work with law enforcement. And it was with Trey that I worked with when we were protesting downtown to work. So their process of agree to disagree, I agree with you. And I say that with the activists, but I need folks to be very, very clear. This is not something that's just happening with one police chief. It is the systematic employment and those in that seat that represent an operation of corruption. There was a police chief in history that said, I can't even control my own gang task force in this city. Yeah. It was police chiefs that Chief James that had problems with the white community because he wasn't arresting enough, he wasn't beating enough heads in the marches in 2020 when the George Floyd was going on. So we don't understand sometimes the systems that have been going on, and the systematic, it's not about personal. It's about systems. If you don't understand what racism is, racism will always be done to you. So we need to understand what institutionalized racism is and what it looks like. It ain't got nothing to do about black and white, but it does have something about that spectrum of color of who's privileged and who gets denied opportunities. That's why this fight is going on. And I like the next generation, and I will shut up because I'm a Baptist Muslim, but this is what I want to say. When we talk about young folks, you better support the young folks because we always talk about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. They didn't make it to 40. They didn't make it to 40. They were young people. So it's always been about young people moving the mark, and we also as young people respect the leadership of our elders to give us guidance and direction, but we're going to take that energy and move forward. Be clear, the data speaks across the nation about what's going on. It's just not Greensboro. That's why our sister is here.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I see a lot of hands popping up. Please let me say, and we need you to help keep us safe. We need you all to help keep us safe. As we are out front on these issues, we've had to ask ourselves, are you home safe tonight? We've had to ask ourselves, do you feel safe continuing on in this fight? And so we need your prayers, and we need community protection. And we will stay on the issues. It's not about persons, it is the system. And we do have respect for people in their position. Thank you so much, Mr. Muhammad. All right, where am I going? This is the president of Greensboro NAACP, Mr. Damon Williams.
I appreciate you. Brother TC, I appreciate your words. Back in 1980s, when all the neighborhoods, you played ball against each other in the summer, Reverend Brisbane was coaching the Grove. I played for the South Side, Smith Holmes. Hey, and just so you know, we smoked everybody. We smoked everybody because we were dedicated to the craft. We was dedicated to the craft. My point is that dedication doesn't stop, okay? Greensboro, Guilford County sheriffs and the police department collectively has $250 million a year budget. And they've never spent a dollar with black folks in the history of the city. So you want to know what the thing is, that's what it is. So when you have a disproportionate force that's 80% white male out here policing your community that doesn't spend no money with you, and I'm not talking building and purchasing or making anything, I'm talking point and clicking, right? And they can't share money with your community, right? When you add the city, the county, the schools, the sheriffs, and fire department together, it's over $1 billion a year they spend with the white community and less than 3% with the black community, and we're the majority in Greensboro. So we're getting exactly what we allow to happen. We're getting exactly what we allow to happen. So you have to know the data points. You have to know the history of the thing because the nature of the thing doesn't change. That's why I love having a brother here. This is my political action chair. We both are Gulf War vets, and we talk about it all the time. When you deal with the nature of a thing, what you find out real fast, it doesn't change. It won't change. And it only changed, lady, by force. It only changed by force. So I'm appreciate all of y'all up there because I know all those warriors up there. Reverend Drumwright, I just landed. I am actually jet lagged, dead tired, bro. I'd have been called you back, but I'm wore out right now. But I appreciate all of y'all coming in. And again, Southside, we rule Greensboro. We rule Greensboro.
Hello, everyone. I am Celeste Pratt. I am an honors sophomore biological engineering student at North Carolina A&T. Aggie Pride. And I've been involved in Greensboro for about 2 years. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, and I do have a law enforcement background. My dad was a chief for JSO. And unfortunately, I'm going to give a little story. I don't want to be too long. But unfortunately, in middle school, leaving a basketball game, we were racially profiled and stopped. He was in his state vehicle. They registered his license. Why do you have a state vehicle? What do you think? But it didn't matter because he was black. So at the end of the day, those two officers had their badges on the table and guns. They are no longer have a job. But I do want to charge us to think about the youth. I am also a part of an organization called Girls Like Me, which is a STEM-based organization where we go to the young elementary and middle schools, and we do a STEM interactive lesson with them. I am the community outreach co-chair for that organization. And I know that we are experiencing a lot of unfortunate events in Greensboro, but I want us to think about the youth. The youth don't know what is going on in this community. The youth need protection. The youth are hurting. The youth are hurting with things they do not know why they are hurting. Because we are going through things and we put it on the youth. And I charge you to think about the youth when we are in these town hall meetings. I'm sorry, I'm very passionate. I am only 20, but I think about legacy and it matters to me. I charge you to think about the youth. Our youth have access to low food. Our youth have access to low books and education. Our youth matters and they need your support. Whether you see a youth in the grocery store, smile at them. Hey, how are you doing? Hey, Black Queen King, you matter. And we need to make sure our youth feel that they matter. So whatever position you have, I'm sure we have lawyers in here, doctors in here, officers in here. Do your part with your job. Do your job as an adult and serve the youth. Thank you.
And we might need to go back to the days where, and this has not been too long ago, where if you see a young person pulled over.
What's up, brother? How you?
You pull over and just keep some eyes, on that interaction. So thank you, sister.
Good evening. I want to speak briefly about an issue here in the city that many of you may or may not be aware of. Tonight I stand as an anonymous resident of Guilford County, and in conjunction with tonight's town hall meeting, I want to bring just some awareness and definitely tying in with the gentleman who was murdered by the police up in Dayton, Ohio, being homeless, and also the disunfortunate of the city. My concern tonight is deeply rooted in public safety, okay, and mental health awareness as it pertains to the disciplinary and general housing status of the inmates at the Guilford County Detention Center, okay. In North Carolina, the Department of Corrections, they have several disciplinary statuses that require either intense maximum or super maximum control status for inmates to be confined to a 23 to 24 hour a day complete lockdown status. Now, this status is for some of the most violent and dangerous inmates in our North Carolina prison system. Here in Guilford County currently, in our jail, regular inmates, meaning most have regular charges with very minor non-violent misdemeanor offenses, are being housed under these same extreme conditions. Okay, there has been talk for several years of understaffing issues that's facilitating the need for not being able to, the inmates not being able to come out. This is This is an issue because number one, I'm gonna hit you with a statistic really quickly that in 3 30-day rolling calendars from April of 2025 to July of 2025, the population of non-black or brown inmates never exceeded 8% in the Guilford County Jail, meaning over 90% of the inmates that are subject to these extreme lockdown terms are black and brown people, okay? And it plays a role in public safety and mental health because a lot of these inmates are released back into society having dealt with these mental health issues from being confined, and then they're having run-ins with the law enforcement as well. And so when you speak about policing, you can't speak about policing without speaking about correction. So I just wanted to bring awareness to the status. I don't know if there's something that can be done as far as hiring goes with the Employment Security Commission or whatever with the Sheriff's Department to see about getting more people hired so that the inmates are able to come out and have recreation time. And so this is what I just wanted to bring attention to tonight, and I thank you for hearing me.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan. I am a member of WOA. We're the Working Class Houseless Organization Alliance. And when I hear about this issue with the new police chief, I think of the issues with our current police chief. I think of how in March of last year, our organization was distributing food downtown, and we almost got arrested for giving food to the homeless. My fear, not so much fear, my want is that the conversation doesn't stop at getting our wanted police chief in position. It's that, as it was being said, this is an overall systemic issue. Why was the police chief moved around to different police precincts? Because that's what happens to police officers. When they go bad, they go to the next police station. This is an issue that is pervasive. This is an issue that affects us all. The same way I was almost arrested, the same way that your father was profiled. It's the same thing that affects us all. And we can't, my hope is that that energy, this push doesn't stop at just getting this new police chief or even getting an answer from the city manager as to why it was not transparent. Or even Marikay, after all of you went to the last city council and I was there. I'm there every city council sitting with WOA. Effectively, what the mayor told you is that your voice does not matter. The decision has been made, too bad, so sad, forget about it, nothing's gonna happen about it, okay? I was there and I saw that. So again, speaking on people that are in a position of power, people are in this position of power and we must be strict on them, we must keep pushing. They are a person, but they have power and they have a position, and if they don't fulfill that position, I'm sorry, they're worthless. Mm-hmm.
I'm tall. I'm the Reverend Sadie Lansdale. I'm the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greensboro. I'm also very pregnant and more likely to cry than I am at other times in my life. So the first thing I want to say is just to anyone who has lost someone you love, you're very present in my prayers. And my question for the dais, I know we got some policy talent behind the mics here, and so what I'd like to hear about from y'all is, could you explain a little about the goals of passing written consent and reducing regulatory stops, and the relationship between those policies and the culture that is enforced or protected by the authority of the chief? You know what I'm saying? Because CJ, I think you were telling me that in Dayton, they have some of those policies, and even so, when your leadership is invested in protecting officers who do wrong, like, I'm sure you can speak more clearly than I about this. But so could y'all fill us in a little just about the policies that we want, that we think reduce racial disparity in policing, and then also the power of the chief, like why it matters who the chief is and how they can, either protect wrongdoing or not. Thank you.
So I'll say and this is, for what it's worth, the chief in Dayton did fire one police officer, but it was for sexual misconduct to that effect. The FOP went through the process and he was brought back. So even sometimes, when you have policies in place and you have the power of an FOP, and I will tell you, they use leverage in their negotiations. And this is directly from the city of Dayton, a former employee who was a part of our Dayton local organizing committee. And according to him, who used to work with the police there in Dayton, the police unions will hold over the city's head, we will go on strike. No city wants to be without police. That's the leverage that the FOP oftentimes use on elected officials and the city manager. However, the city manager and elected officials are still not off the hook. You can be creative and innovative, and we have seen that in some places like Austin, Texas. You can push back on the police unions and do what's right for people and do what's right and do constitutional policing.
Real quick, thank you, Sister Jabbar. Thank you, Reverend, for the question. Can we do just a real quick educational lesson? Is Jason's mic on, please? What is regulatory stops, question number one, and what is the call for written consent? What is written consent?
Yeah, so real quick, regulatory stops are traffic stops that are conducted on people who have a tail light, a tag light, a headlight, a turn signal light could lead to a regulatory stop. Expired tags, tint on windows, a number of things are regulatory stops. And we know that those stops are disproportionately used against black drivers, not just in Greensboro, but across the nation. That's clear in the data. But to the written consent, well, let me just say too, regulatory stops are really a perpetuation of poverty in a lot of cases. We see what starts as a $200 ticket for a expired registration or a tag or a tint. You go to court, you get put on a payment plan, you pay $50 to be put on a payment plan because you can't pay it right then. Let's say that you don't adhere to that payment plan, you get a $250 fee for non-compliance. So now what started at $200 is now $500, and you're going to lose your license if you don't come up with that $500. So it's just a perpetuation of. So that's really what the call to, which may lose your job. Your kids may be, you may not be able to get them to daycare, all the different things. So that's the call on ending regulatory stops. Written consent is essentially right now the way. Well, there is no policy in Greensboro around, there's no directive rather, around searches. And it's kind of free will for the police. So the idea on written consent is informing people of their rights to be subjected to search and the fact that they can withdraw that right at any point. And we really want to create a baseline of what that looks like, and implementing written consent would allow that to happen.
Because there have been instances where citizens have been stopped, and it was the assertion of the police that verbal consent for searching was offered versus the assertion of the alleged that consent wasn't offered. And so written consent unblurs those lines. And you know, when you're in the court of law, as I have been and many, you know, whose word does our criminal justice system take? And so that is the call against decreasing, against regulatory stops, and against uplifting written consent.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing I want to add is, if we look at, I mean, across the city, it doesn't matter where you're at, there's a problem with people speeding, there's a problem with people running red lights, there's a problem with reckless driving. And if you look at the GPD's data, they've conducted about 7,500 regulatory stops last year. They conducted about 3,000 safety stops. So we're not prioritizing safety, we're prioritizing regulation of black people specifically. And I think that what we would like to see is the deprioritization of the regulatory stops and a prioritization of safety stops, because safety is important. So yes.
And as we land the plane, I'll take 2 more comments. As we land the plane, I just want to say that this was our public action nearly a year ago, before we conducted a national search for a police chief. This was our call to the city council, to the city manager, to our policing system here, that you all would uplift these concerns out of our community. What we have done since then is we have hired a police chief, or we have extended an offer to a police chief that comes from far more conservative background, educationally and institutionally, a police chief that is disproportionately upholding regulatory stops in the municipality that he's currently serving, which has, in the last 3 weeks, resulted in the death of an innocent black man. We have extended an offer for him to come to our city. We are far more black. We do not want the perpetuation of this type of policing in Greensboro, North Carolina. We're not saying that the problem is going to start with him, but we are afraid that the problem will be perpetuated by him. And we made this clear to the council, to the mayor, to the city manager, well before a national police search, police chief search was conducted. And so that is why we're here tonight. All right.
It's just a question. Ms. Zakaya, when you say FOP, is that the same thing as internal affairs in Greensboro? No. So it's 2 different things? Okay. Just thank you.
All right, one more question from the floor.
We do have a police association in Greensboro who wields a lot of power, though. I do want to name that. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
North State is
Wow.
black.
that was not shots fired. Right here. Is that Marilyn?
Hi, yeah, my name is Marilyn Lacunza. I'll give you my full name, Marilyn Mendiola Lacunza de la Cruz. I am a Mexican-Cuban that came from Acapulco, Afro-Mexican and Afro-Cuban roots. I am the founder of Fuerza Triad. We are a local grassroots organization that help the immigrant marginalized community, connect them to resources, and also help them in their real moment and real-time needs. My question, or more of like a statement, is more of maybe an awareness. A lot of us do not know or realize that people in my community, when we get stopped for simple, not using a turn signal, not properly stopping, or even a checkpoint, if we don't have status, we will immediately be put through, the whole process. You go through the magistrates, your fingerprints, your picture gets uploaded into the system, and then we get directly handed over to ICE, to immigration. And what that causes is division in our families. So that's how we're constantly getting separated. We don't have a Minnesota situation right now, but we're constantly, every single day, through the law enforcement system, just because we don't have driver's license, getting fed and separated and torn apart. As well as like the people that we're coming into contact with that are victims of domestic violence are not reporting. And like just like, I've had this conversation with a former chief of police who told me this isn't new, this has been happening. The immigrant community has never spoken up about this. Like, yeah, that's fine, that's fair, but we haven't always been murdered in detention centers as we have been in the most recent years. When you look at charges like resisting arrest, we're resisting for our life. Like we're fighting and we're fleeing from the fear of death, either at the arms of an officer in the detention center or back in our own homes that we don't know. So as well as the fear of people speaking up for domestic violence, we don't have that support. We also don't have cultural competency. We don't have officers that speak the language, not just Spanish. They have these fancy gadgets that they have invested in, these really expensive cameras that supposedly translate, but when you use them in the court of law, they're not interpreting. Translation and interpretation are two different things. So a lot of people are being wrongfully accused in the court systems and are not properly being represented because there isn't representation in the courts, in the law enforcement, or even in the city council meetings. Like you have to bring your own interpreter. So, just bringing this into awareness, into the space where I think this moment meets urgency, and as well as like, Black and Brown Alliance. We are one, we're all oppressed, and there is nothing more powerful than the unity of like, us feeling the same oppression.
Community.
Right, and like it's been mentioned, it's systemic, and a lot of people say, I don't get into politics, right? And I'm gonna go there because we need to get into politics. Our very existence is political, To be Black and to be brown is political, Just to even buy groceries is political. And, when we speak about like things of supporting the youth, you have Shia and Olu at A&T doing what they're doing just to get early voter registrations. I'm gonna bring it back and circle it back because we need to support them. And just like there wasn't enough turnout in the beginning, you guys need to show up for them whenever they're asking you to. So, I'm just gonna raise the awareness and call for Black and Brown Alliance. And if you guys ever want to unite, we
do. We will.
We're here.
We shall. Thank you. She is doing very important work around ICE and immigration, and I just want you all to respect Maryland and Triad Fuerza that's organizing around that issue. And Maryland, we're grateful for your work, and we're grateful for you being here tonight, as well as this brother from Woe. All the organizers and activists in the room, can you just stand up? We want to acknowledge you, just real quick, all of our organizers and activists in the room. And we know some have already left. Thank you. Thank you. Listen, please don't peel away. We're in our last 3 minutes, and one of the things that we want to do before you peel away is we want to make sure we have everybody signed up for our next public action. Really quickly, to our dais, you have the final question tonight, and then I'm just going to give some announcements and give you a prayer before we leave. In 30 seconds or less, can you answer Reverend Hughes' question? Where do we go from here? I'm going to ask you to start, even though you're not a member of this community. You're a part of us now. But in Dayton, Ohio, where are you all going next with your public action?
Yes, so in Dayton, there was a city commission meeting tonight, and we organized to have some people there. Hopefully folks showed up. And we're also continuing the campaign of around the demands that we made, which were several. However, we have prioritized 2 demands. And we have prioritized targeting 2 of the city council people to ensure that we have that 3rd vote to get rid of our city manager and the assistant city manager. And so we are in the process of data collection for her, and we are in the process of also starting a petition and an email campaign to push for that 3rd vote to get rid of the Dayton City Commissioner and her assistant. Thank you.
Thank you. At the last city council meeting, the mayor made a statement and says there will be no rescinding of the offer. And I'm just like, when did you become the final arbiter of that? Because the council has not had a discussion to decide if they're going to do that or not. You do not speak for their votes. You speak for the result of their vote. And so, 1, we have to understand policy. 2, I want to say, I know Brother Irving is here and has always been connected to his community, but it is so important as an elected official to stay connected to your community. The community should never question where you are on issues that are important to you. And if you don't know where we stand, you haven't seen a school board meeting, or you've just been somewhere else. But I think it's really important. The organizing and building the capacity, we control the pace of social change, not the mayor and not the city manager.
I want to also take the opportunity to thank my dear friend and brother, Councilman Irvin Allen, for showing up tonight. Look around the room. If your council person is not here, I want to implore you to go and ask them why weren't they present here tonight. Also want to inform some of you about some upcoming events where you can plug in and get tied in and to keep this momentum. April 16th, we want to go to GC Jack, which is the internal process of holding police accountable here in Greensboro. GC Jack, April 16th. We're going back to the council on May the 5th. Going back to the council on May the 5th, and we need to be there in large numbers. Once again, if this number of folks show up to council, we may be able to get what it is that we're asking. So we need you all there. May 5th for that action. Council starts at 5:30. You can also sign up to speak, but you would need to do that 24 hours prior to coming to that council meeting. And then also May 21st is another GC Jack meeting. Those are the things that we have up ahead, and we are looking to ensure and to make sure that this offer is, as you all stated, returned to sender.
Greensboro City Criminal Justice Advisory Council.
Where do they meet?
Where they meet at City Hall, right?
Library.
At the library. All right.
Central Library.
At the Central Library. At the Central Library. Is it downtown?
Yeah, Church Street.
Yeah.
Downtown.
Downtown Library. Yes. All right.
Oh, also a member is here. Wendy, raise your hand. If you want to talk to Wendy about GC Jack, but also another fierce fighter and organizer has gotten back onto the GC Jack, Kay Brown. So we are really happy and really excited about that as well.
All right. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you, but this woman said she's on GC Jack.
Another member of GC
Say
Jack.
that again. Paulette Bernard is
Thank
here.
you, Miss Bernard.
Speak to Paulette. The whole GC Jack in here tonight.
Wow. Okay.
So the chair in the back, Kevin Lightley's here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Awesome. Praise God.
Thank you for bringing here, brother.
Amen. All right, awesome. We're going to be at your next meeting on the 16th.
All right, y'all. So next steps from myself. Hopefully you scan the QR code, share that report with people. That data should be in front of everybody. You know, share it, Facebook, put it everywhere, because that's how we we need to support things from facts and not feelings, and that's just my feelings, but I believe that's what we should do. Show up to these meetings that CJ has talked about, stay engaged. Lack of engagement is some of what may have led us here. I wouldn't be myself if I didn't say that it's important that white people quit trying to reframe this issue around what the data actually shows and accept what it says, and listen to what black people are saying. Black people are the ones that are most impacted by this issue, but it affects all of us, right? And I think the last thing that I would have to say as a senior organizer for the Second Chance Federation, we hold a monthly meeting over at Glenwood the last Thursday, Glenwood Rec Center, the last Thursday of every month. We start at 6, we're done by 7:30, and we have a dinner and we talk about issues that are going on in the community. So the last Thursday of the month.
Before I give my next steps, I would like to say justice for the next generation. Hospitality has been amazing tonight. Absolutely. And I'm extremely proud of how our youth hosted this event.
That's right.
For me, I'm going to continue to share the information. I'm going to talk about it in the barbershops. I'm going to talk about it on social media. I'm going to talk about it at home. I'm going to talk about it in the neighborhood. I'm going to talk about it everywhere I go. I will show up at GC Jack. I will be at the city council meeting because we are asking for them to rescind the offer.
I believe, even though, Miss Monica, you. We're getting ready to do that. I'm getting ready to acknowledge Ms. Hayes for that announcement. Also, I saw Reverend Amelia Albright. Is she still here? I know you have a May 4th announcement. And if there are any other organizers, Marilyn, if you all have anything that you want to uplift in terms of announcements, we want the organizers to have opportunity to invite the community out. Let me share that even though there's not a public comments section, for the very immediate next city council meeting, there is a city council meeting on April 21st at 5:30. And we are going to, with the information you provide, make sure that we let you all know what our next steps are. And it will include a presence at not just the May 4th city council meeting, but the April 21st council meeting. Someone said, we should all show up there. I'm going to say that we all, plus 2, 3, 4, or 5 of each and every one of you, should show up. Because this is not just any hire. This is a huge hire in the city of Greensboro, North Carolina. And it hasn't been treated as such in terms of public awareness. Those 5 community input sessions were held around Thanksgiving. I checked my calendar, I remembered, but I wanted to be clear. I was hosting events on 2 of those meetings, and on the other 3, I was flying. I was attending and keeping up my schedule, and I remember sending members of my community to those meetings. Please, city manager, city council, mayor, do not think that a few meetings that garnered the input of a very, very, very few fraction of our community was enough public input and public transparency. They started this process with public input, and it was ended without public input. With the power of city marketing and communication, those meetings should have been attended just as well as a meeting like this tonight if there had been ample energy and efforts and resources put behind letting the city know that we are about to hire a new police chief, and we want your input. I want you all to know that where we're going is that we're going to turn up the call for this offer to be rescinded. We are not going to accept that it is a closed deal and that it is a done argument. We are going to, it's going to be a long month, y'all. I'm just going to let y'all know, between now and May 12th. And May 12th is when our city manager has announced will be Chief Afzal's day one. And so we want you to stay on with us, and we want you to continue public pressure. And let me say, outside this issue, we're also going to vote in this midterm election. We're also going to vote. With that being said, before I acknowledge folks for announcements, let me ask you for your support. If you want to support Justice for the Next Generation, there's a QR code at the registration table in the front. If you did not give us your name, email, phone number, we're not sharing that. We're not selling that data. We want to just be able to coalesce. I want to thank all of the organizers that are present here. Ms. Dina, you have an announcement?
System, there's a concept called failure to rescue, and it speaks to what is happening to black women and babies when our healthcare systems fail to rescue them from the danger that they're in at the hospital. I know people have been celebrating Cone's OBGYN van in the community, but that is not equity. And we have to stop mistaking that for equity, that the maternal and infant crisis in this country for black women starts preconception. That's right. That black women and babies at infants, our children in our community, have higher resting blood pressure. Black children in our communities have higher resting blood pressure than white children and other children in poor neighborhoods. And so the risk starts before conception. Black women's wombs are so stressed out from worrying about the safety of themselves and their families that they reach the tipping point for delivery before it's time. Their babies can't stay in the womb in the time that they're supposed to. And so the Black Pearl Society is an organization Monica Walker and I belong to, and we are having a They Didn't Have to Die rally this Saturday. Please visit blackpearlsociety.org to get the information to show. We are going to wrap ourselves around Cone Hospital and say to them that this is unacceptable and that the black women and babies, we've lost 9 babies so far in 2025. They were all seeing a health care provider, so this isn't about a lack of prenatal care. We lost around 53 last year, and around 33 were African American. And so, so this is systemic, as Brother Terrence said, because it's happening in every single system. I'm not going to mention the grade level proficiency that I did at our school board meeting last night, that black children are at the bottom of every indicator of educational experience in this county and in this country. So we hope to see you on Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you. Reverend Albright.
My name is Amelia Fulbright, and I'm the lead pastor of Congregational United Church of Christ. And I'm also one of the co-founders of a newish group called the Greensboro Interfaith Immigrant Justice Coalition. We work with a lot of the local immigrant justice agencies, both on direct service to immigrant communities, but also advocacy, especially in recent months around ICE activity and pushing back on over-policing of immigrant communities. We are going to have a service of healing and hope on Monday night, May 4th, so it'll be the night before the City Council meeting. It's actually going to be at First Presbyterian Church. You can find more information on the website, gsointerfaithimmigrantjustice.org. This is really long. But Reverend Brinson and Reverend Drumwright will be on some of our speakers. It will be an interfaith group of leaders, and really the goal is to create a container for us all to process the grief and the fear and the anger that we have experienced over the last year especially, but also to find some hope and to gather across our differences in the community to hopefully draw strength from one another moving forward. And I'll just add that I'm pretty new to Greensboro. I've been here a little over 2 years. I moved from Austin, Texas. And it's just great for me to be with you all tonight, to get to know more people in the community. I was already leaning toward rescind the offer, but you all have pushed me all the way over. So I'm going to go back to my congregation, and I am passionate about helping our white community members see that the issues that they come out for immigrant justice are the same issues that we're talking about tonight. Reverend Brinson has helped me understand that at a deeper level, and anyway, I'm just grateful to be here. I hope you'll join us on May 4th.
Right. Thank you, Reverend Fulbright. Thank you so much. If there are no other announcements, everybody stand for closing word of prayer. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Real quick, Marilyn, join hands with somebody. Marilyn has an announcement. Join hands with somebody.
Yeah, again, Marilyn here. I do have an announcement. We are encouraging people to turn out to their school board of education meetings on April the 28th, and just raise concerns about whatever is on your heart that concerns you, but as well as the support for immigrant families and for them to have like a rapid response prepared in case of another ICE surge in the community, just so they know how to actually handle those situations, as well as like not arrest the parents for not sending their children to school out of fear. Also, we do have May Day. May 1st is a national day of strike. We are asking everyone to, again, strike, boycott, lobby. Don't purchase anything, don't go to work if you have the luxury to do that. As well as Greensboro is also doing a May Day on May 2nd, and they're gonna have I have the information here pulled up. May the 2nd at 315 Spring Garden Street for anyone that wants to come out and support that. On May 1st, everyone will be going to Raleigh. If you guys want to do that, there's a bus that is leaving out of here that you guys can join. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We want to uplift Reverend Brown and his congregation for allowing us this space tonight. I want to uplift support for our organization, and I also want to uplift one of our faith generals, Reverend Conrad Pridgeon. If he'll come forward and give us our closing prayer, I want to yield to one of the men of the movement that I look up to. Thank you, Reverend Pridgeon, for being here. Give us our closing prayer. And is.
Let us pray. Merciful God, thank you for sending us Greg Drumwright leadership. Thank you for his courage, his insights, his abilities, his gifts, and his calling. Now, God, we thank you for drawing us all together. Now strengthen us, lead us, guide us, that what we say and do would be acceptable in your sight and bring about a day of justice, freedom, and equality for all. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
One more thing. This was broadcast on Facebook and YouTube. You can go back and replay it and share it. Thank you all. God bless you. Have a good night.
Just trying to figure it out, fighting down, trying to believe God, trying to watch the words of my mouth and stay on the ride. Trouble come and go, even on the mountain high or the valley low. Never let your faith go. Oh, never let your faith go. Yeah, I've been there before, so confused, don't know which way to go. Stressed out, world so crazy, might as well stay in the house. Fear trying to rise up. Got terrorists disguised, they look like us, but we know who we trust. Trust when I say that we gon' be alright. Tell 'em, we gon' be alright. Tell 'em, we gon' be alright. Alright. Say we gon' be alright. Tell 'em, we gon' be alright. You say we gon' be alright. In these last days, evil times will come and it's here today. Look at all the hate, senseless crime and murder every day. Human trafficking, racism, police brutality, bullying, rape, child molestation, shady appearance of evil. Let your kingdom come, let your will be done in the earth